Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be covering my vintage florals journal. Now I've done 4 signatures and as you can see that makes a very fat journal. That is too big for me. I don't like them that big. They're too hard to handle, too hard to use. So I am going to split this in half and do two signature journals. I'm going to do fabric covers, but I have got a cardboard base so that it's got a bit of substance to it. Now this is the template that I usually use for my covers, because I'm going to do a wraparound cover. So that would go in there like that, that would go like that, and then this would wrap around. But as you can see, as it is already, there's not much of an overlap there. So what I've done is I have extended my pattern by 2 inches to give me a bit of extra wraparound space, and so that my journal is not squashed in the cover. Now, I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to do a fabric cover, and I'll show you the steps as I progress through it. Because I use fabric, I use a double-sided interfacing, which has to be ironed on. So I have to go into another room to do my ironing, so I won't be actually showing you that. But I will show you, what I'm doing, and I'll explain it to you as I go. So now I have to go and get my fabric cut and my interfacing cut ready to attach to my covers. Now, because they're so big, how big are they? I'm not sure where my ruler is. There we go. 12. They're about 19¼ inches long. I didn't have usually I use a file folder. I've got these sort of plastic file folders, and I usually use those, but that's not big enough. So I have joined 2 pieces of cardstock together, cardstock that I would never use. They've come in a pack, and so that I can have a piece long enough, and I've put a row of this tape along where they join, where they overlap, so that there's no chance of catching anything on that. This tape is, I tell you, if you get it in the wrong place, you can kiss it goodbye, because you cannot get it off. It is so sticky. You don't have to put any glue or anything behind it. It just sticks like very well. Alright, so I'm going to go and get my fabric organised, and I'll be back. Okay, so I've cut my fabric to, now I've written it down here so that you can see what I'm talking about. These are 19 by 8 3/4. They were 19 by 9, but I cut one of my fabrics and I cut it to be 19½ by 9, which doesn't give me any wriggle room. So I cut 1/4 inch off the height of my cover, which is still going to be fine, because it will still give me room at the top and room at the bottom here, about 1/4 inch at top and bottom, so that's okay. So cut your cover, your cardboard, to 19 by 9. Mine are 19 by 8 3/4. And then cut your fabric to 19½ and 9½ if you're doing the full height. I've cut mine at 19½ and 9. I actually cut one at 9 1/4. That might trip me up somewhere along the line, but we'll see. So there's your measurements for your cover and your fabric. Now I have gone ahead and So this is the fabric I'm using for my cover. That will be like that. And I have added the double-sided interfacing to the back of it. So you just iron that on. Now, on this one, let me get the roll. It comes in this roll, right? And this roll is... This is here in Australia. I don't know what it is overseas, but it is 43 centimetres or 17 inches high. Now, for me to cover the full height of both, I needed 18 inches, and it's only 17 inches. So I was left with a bit of a dilemma. What do I do? If I do the full thing, cut 2, you know, that's a lot of offcut, and this was... It's not cheap. So I thought, right, what will I do? Well, I'd already cut one out, and the piece that was left, I thought, well, can I use that? So what I've done here is, you can see, or you can't, maybe not can't see, but it stops short there and here. But I'm not worried about that because I plan on stitching all the way around my cover anyway. So I figured that I could secure that with my stitching and it won't make any difference at all. So that's what I'm going to do. Now that I've shown you that, I'm going to take these back to my iron now, and I'm going to iron my fabric onto here. Now this is the tricky bit. I want to try and make sure that I get this evenly in the middle, or well, make sure that this cardboard is completely covered with fabric. So that one will be like that, and this one has got maybe a little bit more play, but not much. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. So you can see I've got the measurement there for this one is 19 by 8 3/4, but the full measurement really should be 19 by 9. Alright, I'll go and iron them onto the cardstock, and then I'll be back. Once I've done that, there's not much else I can do because I want to stitch it on, and my sewing machine is away being serviced. So let me go and iron this on, and then I'll come back and show you. Okay, so I've ironed that on, and you can see there's just a little bit of fabric showing all the way around, which is great. So that's like that. And that one's got a bit more fabric showing all the way around, and that is that way up. Alright, is it? I'm not sure which way that's up. Anyway, I can work that out later. Now, I need to stitch around this, and I need to make my strap for my closure, which has to be stitched as well. And I want to do all of that before I use the same process to cover the inside of my cover. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cover it with some fabric, not this same fabric. I'm going to just have like a plain cream, probably calico, on the inside. Now, you can also, if you want to, you can put like some padding, or like I've seen people put, what's that stuff called? You know, like your jumpers are made out of. Between that and their fabric covers to give it a nice squishy feel. You can also put things like bubble wrap, or you can use a bag for this, you know, like the shopping bags or the Amazon bags. You can use any sort of firming agent you like there. I'm quite happy with the fabric. There'll be like 2 layers. There's a layer of cardboard, a layer of fabric, a layer of interfacing, and then here there'll be interfacing and another layer of fabric. So I'm quite happy with that, because I do like it to be able to move nicely, and but still have some structure to it. So yeah, that's what we're going to end up with. So yeah, that'll be it for now. I'm hopeful to get my sewing machine back tomorrow. If I do, well then I'll carry on. But yeah, I got this from Spotlight if you're in Australia. It's called Heat and Bond Light Sewable, but it's also ironable, iron-on adhesive. So you can stitch over it. So people use it for their motifs and things like that when they're doing fancy work. Alright, okay. I have trimmed around the edges so that it's the same size as the cardboard. Now, I've been thinking, and I have decided that I want to cut this down to be the same size as my template. I don't think I need to have that extra on there. So I'm going to cut that off. So let me just mark that with a pencil. There. And I'm going to mark this one as well. Okay. Now I've created the inside covers for the journal. So what I've done is I've just ironed the interfacing onto the back of this fabric. You can see that, I think you can see that that's like a nice texture fabric, and it's got the little self-patterning in it. So I've done 2 of those, of course, one for each journal. I've also made 2 buckles. So what I did was I cut 2 strips of fabric 1 inch wide, because I'm using these closures and I wanted them to fit inside of that without leaving a big gap. These are like suspender type catches. You can use them on your overalls or, you know, whatever. And the idea is that this will go around my journal, and then will go this way actually. Then that will slip in there, and that will close. And there you've got your closure for your journal, but this will be attached to the cover. It'll be stitched on. So I've made 2 of those as well. So I've got 2 closures, 2 front covers and 2 inside covers. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to trim these down, as I said, and then I'm going to attach these to this. But let's get these done first. So I'm going to trim these down. Okay, so to position my strap, my closure, I'm going to mark on here. Where's this one that comes around? Yes. So I'm going to put a little mark here. This is about where my signature will be attached. My first signature, because there'll be 2 signatures in here. Let me just measure that, it might be easier. So it's 6.5 inches, say. So 6.5, 6.5. Now I'm just going to put my ruler there and just sort of crease that up a little bit without making a hard fold in it. And I know that this gap here is 3 inches, so I'm going to just mark that at 3 inches. And I'm going to do the same there. I'm just sort of creasing that without putting a definite fold in it. Okay, now turn that over like that. Go like that. That's going to go like that. Yes, go the right way. Now turn that over like that and get my strap and put this on here about the centre. So, I don't know if you can actually see what I'm doing. So I'm going to pop this on here about in the centre so that that's level with that. And I'm going to just position this something like straight. Just have a quick measure. So I've got that at 3 3/4 basically. About there. And go down here and have a look. That's dropping down a little bit. You can just do this by eye. I'm just being a bit critical. Now I'm going to add a little bit of glue here where that crease is, because this is where I'm going to stitch it. I should put a mark there, I suppose, so I know. And then here is where my next one will be, but I want to put one sort of in the middle of those. So that's about, so in about here, I guess. So I'm going to put some glue there. This is just to hold it in place so that makes it a bit easier to stitch. And then here, I think that was it. It's about where the signatures are. A little bit of glue there to just hold that in place. Just check that we're still, yep, okay. So, let me have a look at that. Yeah, that looks pretty flat. Right, so now I'm going to go and stitch these 3 points on each one. So this is loose and this is loose as well. Yeah, I'm just going to stitch there, there and there, and then I'll be back, and I'll do that on both, and I will iron the inside cover on. Okay, so I thought I'd just show you this before I put the inside cover on. So you can see here where I've stitched it. I've just stitched a row like that, and that just holds that in place. So it doesn't flop around, it'll stay there. And then this piece, which is going to be the adjustable piece, is secured here where the signatures are, and this can move about. That lets us open up everything fine. Alright, so time to add the insides to these, and then I will shape them a bit. I'll be back to do that though. Okay, so there we go. I have my inside cover attached, and I have trimmed it off. So it's the same size as the front, as the outside cover. Now I'm going to round my corners, and I thought for that I'll just use this glass and draw around it. Just get a pencil. Around that. That. And this one, and then use the scissors to cut around it. Now you can put any shape on this that you like. You could, you know, on your front area you can have like a scrolly bit or curved or whatever you fancy. I'm going to go just with the straight edge and the a bit tricky. So, like that. So now my cover looks like that. I've got the curve happening like so. Now I need to see whether the pencil will rub off. Yeah. Yes, it does. So if you happen to have a bit of pencil on your fabric, I could have used the, you know, the normal dressmaker's pencil that rubs off, which I probably should have done. Okay, so that's one. Now let's do the other. You probably don't need to watch me do that. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this to my sewing machine now and I'm going to stitch around the whole outside edge. Okay, because I didn't have enough, my interfacing wasn't wide enough to go right to the edge, but I like the stitched edge anyway. I'll probably do a zigzag. Yeah, I'll probably do a zigzag all the way around in this same colour, like deep browny, reddy browny coloured cotton. Okay, so I have stitched around that with a zigzag all the way around the edge. That holds my two layers together and also stops any fraying that might happen going too far back. It'll go to the stitching and stop. So that's what we have at the moment. We have our cover with our closure. This I will trim off when I decide what length I want it. There we go. So our next trick is to add our signatures. So these are going to go in there. I want them to come over like that, and then this will come up like that, and that will catch on there, and I'll make that probably about that long so it allows for a bit of extra expansion in there. And there we go. That's what we're looking at. So let's bind our signatures in. I'm putting 2 signatures in each cover. Okay, so I've made a template. This is the top, and I've marked where I want my holes to go, and I've put a line on here where the signature is going to go. So I'm going to just hold that in place there. I'll make sure I've got that perfectly on that line, and it's not perfectly to the top. That's better. Is that on the line? Yes. So I could put one on the other side as well, just to keep it out of my way. Now I'm going to use my awl and a soft mat to poke those holes in to my spine. So one there, one there, and one down the bottom here. Right, that is the first signature, and I've moved over, and that's the hole, that's the hole, and that's the hole, and I've moved over 5/8 of an inch, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing here. So I'm going to line that up, make sure I've got it on that line. Open that up and hold it in place. Oh, yes, yes, that's the right way up. Fold that over. And punch my holes. Right, now this one's going to go through that. I think I got that in the right spot. Let me get that nice and straight. And punch through. Yes. Okay. And then we'll do one at the top. And one at the bottom. Okay. I'm only going to do one on camera. I'll do the other one off camera. Okay, so I've got my holes punched for where my signature's going to go. Now I need to punch my signatures. That's going to go over like that, and that's going to come over like that. Very good. So now let's do our signatures. I have got these settled in, and I've got them held in place with a large clip. Now my signatures are a little bit shorter than my, well, I think they're 8 1/4 and this is 8 3/4, so I'm going to cut equal amounts off of this. So I have to cut 1/4 of an inch off the top and 1/4 of an inch off the bottom. Down to 8 1/4. So I'm taking equal amount off the top and the bottom. Now I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got my top there. So let's open this up, put our template in there. I'll make sure we've got it lined up evenly, and I find that this works best if I have it like in a V, like so. So now I'm going to poke through the centre. Then the top. And then the bottom. Okay, so that's that one punched. Now the same for this one. So put our little template in there, close it over a little, and punch our holes. Just checking as I do that I've got the top and the bottom lined up properly. One. Two. And three. Okay, so there we go. We've got our holes poked in, and we've got them in our signature and in our cover. Now I'm going to sew the signatures in. It's up to you where you start, whether you start with the front one or the back one. It really doesn't make that much difference. Yeah, and seeing as how I've already decorated my signature, it makes it a bit trickier to stitch it in, but we'll handle that. I'm going to use this wax thread. It's a nice neutral colour, so that should work. And I'm going to cut off 3 times the length of my, or the height should I say, of my journal. That seems to be a bit of a rule of thumb, so that's what we'll go with. I mean, that will leave us leftovers, of course, but that won't matter. Now, which one do I want in the front? Which do I want them? That the first one, or that the first one? Well, this one will do. So I'm going to start with the first signature, and I'm going to start on the inside. Now, if you want your strings to be on the inside of your signature, you start from the inside of your signature. If you want them to be on the outside so that you can put dangles or whatever, then you start from the outside. Now I'm going to go through the centre hole. Out of the way. Okay, and I'm going to just hook that under there, because I don't want it to slide out, but it may well slide out because that's not holding that very firmly at all. Okay, now it doesn't matter whether you go to the top or the bottom, but I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going through the cover and then through the hole in the signature, which should line up perfectly, and pull that through. Then we go straight down to the bottom hole, which is there, I think. There we go. And through that bottom hole in our signature, in our cover, like that. So there we have top, bottom and Now we're going to go back in through the centre. So now we don't want to split the thread, so we want to be very careful. So you might want to pull your thread up and go in the bottom of the hole and through the signature. I don't normally have any trouble with this at all, but because I'm on video, it's not playing nicely. So let's go in the cover first. There we go. Through there. Now, right. Now, we want to make sure that we've got one of these threads on each side of the centre cord, and we want to make sure we've got that pulled nice and tight. I'm going to have a look over here. Yes, that's pretty good. And here is nice and straight. And so I'm going to tie this off. Just a double knot is enough. Or if you're like me and want to be doubly short, do 3. Then you can trim them off. Now you can leave these long and put dangles or whatever you like on there, but I'm not going to do that. Actually, I will leave it about that long. Okay, so let's take our clips off and see what we've got. So there's our first signature. And that comes over like so. And this comes over like so. But there will be another signature in there, so we can stitch that in now. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So 3 times the length. You can see there's not that much left over, is there? You know, there's only about that much, so I probably wouldn't go any less than 3 times. Thread that onto our needle. Right, now find our centre hole, go in through the centre and through the centre hole on our cover. Now this one might be a bit trickier because we're going through our strap as well, which might make it a bit... Actually, do we need to go through the strap? I could probably get away with not going through the strap, to be honest, because it's not actually stitched right at that point. I just missed the stitching, so that was a good thing. Okay, let's pull that through. plenty there. Right, now we're going to go up to the top hole for our second signature. You can see it's a bit more involved when you've already got one signature in there. You have to mess around with it a bit. So we've got coming, oops, up through the centre. I'm actually going to put some removable tape on that because I don't want to have it pull out. Okay, so I've got that coming through there. Now we can take it through the top hole for our signature, which is there. Something's wrong there. That moved, didn't it? Right. Let's see if I can get onto this a bit better. Yep. Okay. You can pull that through there now. And then we're going to go straight down to the bottom. And out through the bottom hole in the cover. Okay, and now I have to go back in through that middle hole, which is going to be fun. Okay. Now I'm going back in through the centre hole in the signature. Oh, sorry. Pulled it over towards me so I could see what I was doing. The threads on both sides. I'll take that off so that it doesn't decide to stay there. Right, now let's pull this nice and tight. Make sure we've got everything there. Could be a little tighter, so take the needle off. Okay. Yep, that feels alright. Once again, I made sure that I had one thread on each side of that centre thread. And we can trim that off. Okay, so let's take our clips off. Okay, there we go. And we have got our cover. Now we can decide how much we want to allow here. So let's say that much. And I can cut that off. I will stitch that. I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch down there. Now we can fold that over like so. Open this up and pop that in there. And there we go. That is our cover and our signatures bound into our cover. And we've got a nice little closure. So I'm going to go and do that for the second journal. I'm going to do exactly the same thing that you've just seen me do here. Punch my holes, make my template, punch my holes in my signature, trim my template down first, and so I'll be making a whole new template for the second journal. I won't use the same template. Alright, okay, well I'll come back and show you them both when the second one's finished. Okay, so there's our two journals covered and bound into their covers. So you can see I've cut this off and I've left plenty of room there for expansion, and I've stitched down that edge so that it doesn't fray. So we can open that up like that. That opens out and we have got our signatures in here. Two signatures. Pretty full. Fold over and seal up like that. This one I had to do the signatures on the outside of the band because it was stitched down right there. So yeah, nothing I could do about that, but that's no problem. That's nothing wrong with that. And this one, the binding went under the closure. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. Nearly finished these journals. All I got to do is something on the cover. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I'll do that in the next video. Next video will be the last video for these. These will be finished. All I've got to do is the front covers. Alright, well thank you for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, I'd love it if you give me a thumbs up and all those good things. And yeah, I hope you can join me when I post my next video. Okay, bye.